have on the phone with us Mr. Mark LaBelle, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, all the way from where are you today, in Hungary?
I'm in Budapest right now, yeah.
Okay, well, I won't ask what you're doing there. I'll bet you it's a story. You had a great question on our Ask Renman thing. So first, let me thank you for that, Mark, in participating and being a member. It was such a great question, in fact, that I thought it was worthy of a second opinion here. So I invited a manager by the name of Mr. Rich Hultzman to join us on the phone as well. Rich is the manager of a band called Portugal the Man, who's a great band that I saw at Coachella this past summer, and they are terrific. He's on the line with us too, I think, is he not? Rich, you there? All right, perfect. Mark, you got two managers, both of whom worked at a label, who've had some experience in the publishing. Tell the folks what your question was. There was a couple points. There was label ownership, and there was something about management commissions in publishing. Take it away.
Yeah, so basically what happened was we were playing at a bar in Los Angeles, and a manager approached us that night about, representation and certain other things. And at the same time, we had already spoken to a label who was in the middle of negotiating a deal with us, and I had reached out to one of my manager friends over at Red Light, who helped me out a little bit with the wording and understanding some of the business terms that I didn't know. And the numbers of the deal were really appealing. It was just that, we had heard plenty of times from just reading music blogs and stuff that an artist is never supposed to give up publishing. So when a label was asking for us to forego publishing in return for $100,000 in marketing and all this other stuff, tour support, it seemed a little sketchy to us. And then when we had an offer from a manager, he too, came at us after several days of meetings and stuff like that and drawing up contracts. He said that he wanted, a little taste of publishing. So we had a distaste in our mouth about that, and we were just sort of looking for some answers, as to, first of all, why everybody, obviously that's the most lucrative part of the business right now is getting publishing, but is that the direction we're going in with management? Obviously it's the direction we're going in with labels. Should we sort of do that sort of thing? Is that something you might do with Incubus? It's all up in the air to us, and the industry is changing so much that we don't really have any answers of our own.
All right.
I don't think anybody knows.
Gotcha. Let me say this, and then I want Rich to weigh in here. With regard to labels and owning the masters and so forth, that's the way it is. Incubus, when we signed with Sony, they own the masters in perpetuity. The label interest in publishing operates on a couple levels. When a record company puts out a record, they have to pay what's known as mechanical royalties to the music publisher, right? So when the label says that they want to be involved in the publishing, it typically hasn't meant that we're not going to pay publishing. It means that we want to make you an offer for your publishing as well, so that they are basically transferring a little money from one pocket to the next, or getting a piece of a pocket they were going to pay on somebody else. Rich, has that been your experience?
Yeah, exactly. In modern days, certainly people are asking for 360 rights or percentage, like a commission on the publishing side. Mm-hmm. Indies don't do that. Major labels, many labels do that at this point. But for the most part, indies should not be asking for anything on your publishing side.
Now, Portugal the Man was on an indie label. They're now on Atlantic Records. Is that kind of played out with your experience with the Portugal the Man guys?
In terms of master rights?
In terms of the masters, and then we'll talk about the publishing commissions with the managers in a minute.
Yeah, as a masters, when I started working with them, they had already had a deal with an indie that owned the masters in perpetuity. I negotiated a way to put out our own release in the interim between the two records that they owed, that we own the rights outright for. That release enabled us to be cash rich enough to make our next record after the deal. And so we made our third record without a record label, at which point I shopped that record around and made a deal so that we could own the masters on the next 3 records. And at which point we decided then to Atlantic Records. The idea was we wanted to own the masters and build everything ourselves to the point that we felt we needed what a major label provides. And when we signed the major label deal, we went and we gave them master rights in perpetuity.
Okay, so when you went with the major, they're back to it. Now, you had another, does that answer your question, Mark? Give you a little help there?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Okay, now your next question had to do with I want to clarify something. You said the manager, with regard to publishing, wanted to have a little taste. Again, there's 2 issues here, as I see it. One is if the manager's idea of having a little taste was, I'm going to own a piece of your publishing, versus I'm going to take my manager's commission on publishing income. Those are 2 decidedly different animals. Which one was it? Did he want to own the publishing? Or is the question, does he get a management commission on publishing?
He wanted to own publishing for material that we made while we were with that manager. So say we made one album, while under, representation with this guy. He would have publishing of, that one album. But anything after that, we wouldn't be bound to him for in terms of publishing.
Okay.
So and what he was saying was that would be separate from a management fee. And he was kind of making a point that from a management standpoint, he'd be getting 15% of both writing and publishing anyway, just from if the deal was negotiated at 50%, obviously. He'd be getting 15% of writing and publishing, so the 30% of owning publishing would just sort of balance itself out, in that regard.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Rich, you want to take that one?
You should run away.
Thank you.
There's no reason ever for a manager, unless they wrote part of the song, to have or own part of the publishing. I should clarify that. If they wrote part of the song, then they should have a part of the publishing. If they paid you as a publisher in advance to get part of the publishing, that's a totally separate deal, and you're open to doing that with them. But as manager, there's no way they should own. They earn commission on the money you make, period.
Yeah.
You make no money, they make no money.
Yeah, that's an important point there, Mark, and it's really simple. I've gone through this 100 times on the show. Here's the simplest way to describe it. No money for the artist, no money for the band, okay? The managers don't put up money typically to fund those things. They don't have rights of ownership. When you get somebody that wants to double dip, take commissions and own, get the fuck out of there quick, man, because you're not dealing with somebody on the up and up.
Right.
Did I help you out
That's
there?
sort of the advice we got. Yeah, and I think, in his defense, we sort of went away from this, obviously. But in his defense, he was looking at an artist, or a band, I should say, that was, we were working on putting out a record, and he was trying to use his resources to help us make the best record possible. So, he was going to front some money for studio time. He was going to put us in the room with some of his producers that he was aware of, and we sort of, we know of him. He's an aPpKVg guy, or formerly was, actually. So we sort of saw the aPpKVg umbrella as something that would be lucrative for us, but we didn't obviously want to give up 30% of publishing.
Well, yeah, I think your gut was right on that. And, I know those guys over there, and so I'm hoping we're getting the facts right. But the bottom line is most managers get their percentage on income derived during the band's career. The ownership part really complicates things. But if somebody's putting up money, to Rich's point, that's a whole different animal than I'm going to give you my services and then own a piece of it. So hopefully that answered your question.